So for the past 2 weeks, I was working on the implementing the volunteer and volunteer groups in the admin portal and did some changes in the API as well. So, so when we go to the event dashboard, now we will have this volunteers tab as well. In the volunteers tab, there are two types of volunteers. One could be the individual volunteers or other could be the individual groups. You can switch between those using this toggle button. Now let's say I want to add a volunteer. These are all the organization members who can be added as volunteers. And similarly, we can remove those if you want.
Okay. And what does the
And
pending status mean?
so actually, when we add the volunteers, like what I was thinking is in the user portal, uh, if there is Will Shepherd, there is user. When he logins to the user portal, he will have a request for this particular volunteer thing. If he accepts, then he will be the volunteer for this event. If he
So,
doesn't accept, he will be not.
okay, that makes sense. So it's a confirmation mechanism. Thank you.
Yes. And similarly for groups, like one would be the name for the group, another description. We can select a leader for group.
Okay.
And when we select a leader, by default, the person is added as a volunteer as well. And volunteers required is a field wherein the the creator of the volunteer group will specify, let's say if we want 10 volunteers in total,
Okay.
but for now we are only adding two. So in the user portal, there will be an option wherein the user can see all the volunteer groups and he will be able to see that this particular group requires 10 volunteers and there is space, like there is vacancy in this particular group, so that he can join that particular group by clicking on it. And similarly, you can remove those as well. So actually, update functionality for this volunteer groups is pending in the API. Uh, I will work on it, and after that, I will start working on the this user portal to support joining volunteer groups and accepting invitations. But for that, I wanted uh, confirmation regarding the design. So in this is the user portal. This
Yes.
is how the user registers for a particular event.
Yes.
Okay, I don't know why this is failing.
Mm-hmm.
I think there is some bug here. So what I was thinking is here we can keep two buttons. One could be registration and other could be volunteering or volunteer for this particular event. When we click on register, there will be all these options and register button here. And in the volunteers tab, we can have we will list all the volunteer groups which are available and how much vacancies and how much vacancies available in that volunteer group. If he wants to join a volunteer group, he will be able to join the volunteer group here, or else register as an individual volunteer for this particular event. So is it okay if we keep it in this model itself? Or maybe what we can do is add a volunteer tab here. Like this could be the possible UI. We will add a volunteer tab in the left dashboard. When we click on the volunteer tab, we will have the volunteer dashboard, where in the volunteer dashboard, the user will be able to see all the upcoming events, volunteer for those events. And in the volunteer request tab, you will be able to see all the requests pending. You can accept or reject those requests
Yeah,
by clicking on volunteer.
the separation seems to be a more intuitive methodology. Having multiple tabs in that modal thing, it's going to get really confusing. I would think. Yeah, Shekhar,
Okay,
please
so
go ahead. Shekhar, go ahead. Mito, out of curiosity.
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead, Shekhar.
okay. So Glenn, I'm just suggesting, like if we will have like show me the like event details screen modal. Uh, what we can do is like if we are adding a option to apply for the volunteer or if he has been assigned for the volunteer, I mean applying for a volunteer directly, is that feasible? Or like we can also expect volunteers from outside the organizations also, right? Because if let's suppose if there's an event happening and we need a volunteer and we don't have a or the current organization doesn't support like that amount of volunteers, so we should have an option to reach out, have to fill a form, kind of giving a form kind of thing, where users can directly come to our portal and they can, in the user portal, they can directly fill the form of volunteers and apply for the volunteering. And from the super admin or admin of the organization, he or she can approve the volunteers thing, just like I've seen this example in the communal.com kind of, which is kindly popular in the Delhi NCR region for managing the communities. So that thing meant for me like it was intuitive. So I can share the screenshots of that. So it can be intuitive for you also to make the volunteers thing in the user portal look
And
good.
would that, are you saying it would be in this modal versus in a separate volunteers screen section?
I mean, in the for the adding uh, like volunteers is the thing for the user. I don't suggest like to add the different kind of tab for that, because there wouldn't be that much actions for the volunteers from the user's perspective to work on. He just will be able to accept, reject, and I guess see the from the which communities he's volunteering or the which event he's volunteering, right? Um, and this can be managed in the profile section of the volunteers or the profile section of the users when it is in a volunteer. When he is a volunteer, we can show the kind of tab kind of thing or a card kind of thing where it will be shown like what teams or what committees he has volunteered.
The reason why I like having this as a separate section, just like what we have here, is that
Mm.
in non like in these sort of organizations, they're constantly looking for volunteers. And so
Yep.
therefore the admin or the super admin would be able to say, just go to the volunteer tab, see which events are that we need volunteers for, and just volunteer versus
Mm.
versus going through the calendar and then individually clicking through on something else or a separate tab. It's a little
Um,
more. Well, I guess it could be either way works.
yeah.
I
Um,
think
Mm.
what Shaker, I think you didn't suggest for the UI. You suggested the additional feature of giving the option for people outside the organization, right?
Yeah, giving the so that they can directly see the if there is a call for volunteer form is open, so that they can directly fill that form, kind of that.
Okay. So
Right
maybe
now,
in the
do
UI,
we have anything? Right now, do we have anything to add the volunteers outside the organization?
Not at the moment, but hold on. This, though it's a good idea, just it's a little scope creep. Let's try and see how we
Okay.
can get the core functionality, and then we can start thinking about how we can get outside people to get to where we want to be. But it would be interesting for us to see how we could get people from outside the organization to know what's going on, and then that would help them join the
Hmm.
organization and then volunteer. So that could be something good. Parag, please go ahead.
Okay, so I have implemented this volunteer management for events in mobile site.
Yes.
So what we have currently implemented is like an admin can actually add volunteer groups, and in volunteer groups they could add volunteers, and they could request whether you want to join as a volunteer for a event or not. This is how the functionality right now. So, and what Glen has proposed right now is like uh, if anybody wants to join as a volunteer too. So would that be okay to implement on mobile site too or not? Like,
Yes, I would think that if most of these organizations, they're not going to want if they're going to be looking for volunteers. So just let people volunteer. You can always tell them no and remove them afterwards, right?
Okay.
And so therefore it becomes
So
one less um, it's one less step for the admin to do, one less thing for the admin to do.
then I think like there should be a particular section for volunteers, volunteer dashboard, what Glenn
Okay.
proposed, where we could manage all those things.
Yeah.
Volunteers requests and upcoming events. That would be more easy for an admin, for an
Right.
organization admin.
Right. Right. Yes, I think so. But then we'd have to see what information we would have on this because we're now the risk is that we're now duplicating the calendar, the event calendar,
Yep.
right, in two different locations. So, and hmm, I would think that we would want to have the option of making people volunteer in either location, and then like
Yeah.
what?
Now what we are doing is we are actually requesting for a volunteer by going to an event instance in the portal.
Right.
And what the more feasible would be going to directly to our volunteers management
I
section and then managing all that.
That's what I think. Yes. Yes, and then that keeps this modal very simple. It's uh, just registering or not, and
Hmm.
maybe we could just have a volunteer button or something rather than a separate
We can
tab.
have a call to action button, like if there is an
Oh,
need,
yes.
like if there, yes, like Glenn has suggested, like if the admin need 10 volunteers and if there is already a place there, so there might be a kind of button just like the already registered button. There
Yeah.
must be like the two buttons of call for volunteer or call for papers for the speakers, I guess. Like, I mean, the speakers are another thing, but volunteers button should be also there, so it can directly navigate to the particular section of volunteer section,
Yes.
volunteer screen.
Yes, that would be that. Yeah, that would be useful. Yes, I agree. I agree. Because then
Hmm.
yes, let's try that. All right,
Okay.
let's just try that, and then if it doesn't work, we can always ask somebody to do something more intuitive afterwards. But I don't want to stop progress. And Glenn, I'm sure that you came up with this idea after some thought. So let's go with the idea that you had with the separate volunteer tab. It mimics that of the admin portal. So I think we should consider doing that, right? Because
Okay. So
the admin portal has a volunteers section in the left drawer, right? Is that correct?
no, the admin dashboard has the event. The admin portal has the event dashboard, and
Oh, I
within event dashboard we have volunteers.
oh I see. All right. So then,
But we can't have event dashboard in the user portal because the user doesn't have access to action items or agenda items. So it doesn't make sense to keep a separate event dashboard in user portal.
okay, hold on. Wait. But that doesn't mean we couldn't have the same design, but just don't have those buttons, the action items and the other thing, right?
I'll just show the event dashboard UI
Yes.
once.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we are the admins, so we
Oh,
have the show event dashboard button here.
correct. All right. So hold on. So stop right there. So why not have this? Oh, I see. Because then we could remove the registrants, we could remove the agendas, we could remove the actions, and only have the volunteers and remove the statistics. But then looking at yes, it'd be sort of doesn't make sense for the person to click through to a dashboard which only has one option.
I
Yes.
mean, it
Okay,
will have, I guess,
yeah.
two options like dashboard and agendas and the volunteer thing, kind of three options.
Yeah, but most people would have seen most of the stuff with the dashboard from the
Yeah, that's also right.
from the other stuff.
Hmm.
I wonder. I mean, to see how it's done in because Google has the I'm looking at another screen here, trying to see how Google does this. All right. I'm wondering whether we should, I'm wondering, maybe not for now, but the way Google does this is when you click onto the individual event, it only gives you the option of editing and deleting the event. And then when you edit, you get all the details for the event. And let me just take a look at something else here. Just give me a second. Give me a second here. All right. Let's just leave this as is. But I think having the separate volunteer section, that doesn't really make sense for the user portal. All right. So Glenn, let's just do it in the modal for now. Like what you had suggested, like a tab modal, and
Okay.
yeah, for the user portal. And then what we could do for maybe for the rest of the year, or maybe even for the GSoC 2025, is for somebody to come up with a more intuitive way of handling this. Just like we could ask them to come up we could maybe have two GSoC, or maybe we could have one GSoC idea for just improving the UI UX for this particular thing, and then also for the tags. Yes, Parag, go ahead.
I think we could let it be like how it is right now, but could add something like event admin could just ask for like call for volunteers, and then that menu or that pop up for user portal,
Yeah,
it could show only that when you are asking for it, like when an event admin is asking for
right.
volunteers,
Yeah, we could.
only for that. Yeah,
Oh,
that would be more.
Do you think we should do that now, or do you think we should do that as a part of GSoC next year?
I
Because
mean, right now, then we have to add more backend support for that. But currently, all the backend support for volunteers is done. Only the UI part for the portal has to be done. So, like, we could do it later.
all right, I think we should just progress along the path that Glenn is proposing, and then possibly create a GSoC idea about fixing some of these obvious UI UX issues, and
Mhm. Yeah.
possibly make it a small size project rather than a large size project, for example.
so Peter, regarding the volunteer thing,
Yes.
like maybe keeping the separate tab would make much more sense because let's say if we even add the keep here the volunteer thing and
Hmm.
keep an option to join volunteer groups, but at the end we will require a separate maybe screen in the user portal to
Right.
accept all the invitations or reject the invitations or
Okay.
just to view all the invitations
Right.
because we can't add the view invitations here in the event. Like, it won't make sense.
Yes.
But
Right.
accepting and rejecting a thing would be like a notification thing, like that could be handled if there is some notification section in a portal. Why should we have a complete different section for that?
Even for notifications, like maybe we can keep a small pop-up notification here, but at the end we will require a separate screen wherein we will be able to see all the requests. Like
That would be
notifications is just to notify. but we will
Okay.
have to take some action on that notification later.
All right. So the volunteer, but then that means you'd have a separate. You're saying that in the admin portal we'd have a separate volunteer um, option, right?
In the
Just
user portal.
in the
Yeah,
user
in the user.
portal, but not in the okay, but not in the admin portal. I see.
No, in the admin portal, we just have to add volunteers.
That's right. That's right.
In the
That
user
could be
portal,
done.
we have to accept the incoming request or reject the incoming request and side by side volunteer for upcoming events.
Okay. All right. Because yeah, I guess regular users would also be creating events, and they would want volunteers too. But so they would see the same set of modals and stuff that the admin would see, but then you would have this separate volunteer um, left-hand drawer thing so that they could volunteer for more events more easily. Is
Yeah,
this is
and
I tell you what
and
I
yeah,
tell you what do what you think would be the right approach based on your what you think, and then if we think there needs to be any improvement, we make that a GSoC 2025 idea, or we try to see whether we can create issues between now and GSoC for people to try and make it more intuitive. But what I don't want to do is for us to be changing things so much that A, you don't finish your GSoC project, B, we have partial functionality versus no functionality at all. So let's just go ahead with what we have, what you think you'll be able to achieve, and then we try to see how we could fix it if it needs fixing. Because I'm not saying that what you're doing is wrong, but let's follow that path. Okay?
uh, okay. So should I try this thing?
Yes. Let's see whether that works. But
Okay.
I'm looking at it and I'm in two minds about this.
Because maybe thinking from a psyche of a user,
Yes.
if I want to volunteer for an event, first I will have to search for that event and then go into that modal and then uh, join any volunteer group. Like there is 2 to 3 screen changes, and how will he know that you have to go so deep and then volunteer for a particular thing?
Right. Yeah.
Instead, if you want to volunteer, then
You just go straight to the thing and you can see the list of events because
yeah,
it's a diff. All right, let's do that once again. Let's do that. Let's see how we can streamline it at a later point because there may be opportunities for streamlining and even keep the idea that you have of having the separate volunteer option around. Okay.
because even in the user portal, we don't have much options in this
Yeah. Yes.
left sidebar.
Yeah. Okay. Let's try that and then we'll figure out the rest. What I really want to do is to try to see how we can get an MVP out, and it's better for us to have something that we can launch, that I know you can finish, that you feel comfortable with, and then we can use that feedback from the MVP to create GSoC ideas. And so if people think it's fine, then it's fine. If they don't think it's fine, we can put an idea to say, based on feedback from the MVP community, this is what they'd like to see. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah. Let's just do it that way. Let's keep it simple. All right. It may not necessarily be optimal, and I fully recognize that. I want you to succeed in GSoC, and I also want to have an MVP, and I want to make sure it works according to some well-known methodology. Then we can figure out what we do next. Okay, so
Okay.
thank you. This is very helpful.